author, and the link to the original poster down in the description. Am I the a-hole for leaving the church even though they can't run service without me? I, 21 female, recently left the church I grew up in. It was a very hard decision and long journey for me, but I've worked through some of the fear and guilt that was keeping me there. While I was attending church, I was a very integral part of the service. I was the only person in the church who could play music and sing. Every week I would work with the pastor to pick worship music based on his sermon that week, and then on Saturday I would essentially run a one-man worship concert. I did this for about 6 years, since I was 15. Another important thing to mention is that I'm gay. I've known since high school, and so have my parents. They're surprisingly supportive, considering the conservative church we have been attending for as long as I can remember. I've never been in the closet, but I've also never publicly come out on social media or anything. The one time I brought my girlfriend to church, everyone thought she was just a friend I was trying to convert. 2 weeks ago was my breaking point. Our pastor's sermon was about how the world is becoming more inclusive. It was a long, and frankly awful, sermon, but the part that finally got me to leave was when he mentioned how all the kids are gay now, and how our whole generation needed to either repent or burn in hell eternally. Before this happened, I knew that our denomination wasn't exactly welcoming of the LGBTQ+ community, but to hear it so bluntly stated in front of everyone was something else, and I couldn't keep living in blissful ignorance. I decided that after the service I would no longer take part in a church who didn't like people like me. The next week, when he called me to arrange to meet about the church service for that week, I politely explained that I would no longer be taking part or attending his church anymore. I tried to keep it civil, just telling him that our views and theologies didn't align anymore, and for both of our sake I was leaving. He freaked out, telling me it wasn't fair to him or the rest of the congregation that I would leave so abruptly without making alternate arrangements to replace music. He tried to demand I come back until he could find someone else, but I declined and then hung up the phone. Since then I have had countless church members telling me how disappointed they are that church has been cancelled and how I should make things right with God and come back to the church. I have also had the pastor reach back out asking if I would teach guitar to his son if I was really going to leave forever. I have declined. My parents have mentioned that it was rude to leave as abruptly as I did without giving anyone a chance to try and find a replacement. So, am I the asshole for leaving the church with nobody to replace me, essentially making it so that church is cancelled until they find a replacement? Edit/update. First, thank you to everyone who responded to the original post. It has put a ton of things into perspective for me. I was a volunteer for all 6 years that I did the music for the church. I didn't even know that some people got paid to do music for church. I was under the assumption that everyone did it to volunteer. When I originally started doing music, it was supposed to be a temporary thing until he could find another person. I was told after a few weeks that it was God's calling for me and that I should stick around. I now understand that he just didn't want to find someone else / have to pay someone to do it. I also don't get sick very often, so the small handful of times I have been sick in the past few years the service was just cancelled for the week. Now the update from this morning: the pastor's son, yes, the same one who I was supposed to teach guitar, is apparently on Reddit. He ended up seeing my post, recognizing the situation, and showed it to his dad, who in turn came to our house this morning to talk about it. It was a very unexpected start to my day, especially because I hadn't read any of the responses yet and didn't know if I was in the wrong or not. He tried convincing my parents that Satan was working through me, causing me to give into the temptation of homosexuality. He wanted me to start doing weekly one-on-one spiritual sessions with him to work through this temporary slip in faith. He also tried to convince me again that by coming back and giving my gift of music back to God, God would in turn help me work through the sins I am committing. My parents ended up asking him to leave, and him coming to my house to talk about my sexuality has kind of solidified my choice in staying away. My phone has also not stopped blowing up with congregation members trying to get me to go back. It is exhausting to constantly see messages, to the point that I am considering changing my phone number. At this point, I want to smash my guitar on the ground and never touch it again. Part of me still feels guilty about everything, but I think that comes with the fact that I dedicated so many years of my life to the church, especially because I did it so young. I don't know where I stand religion-wise right now. I have a lot more things to work through before I can even start to think about that again. I saw a few people suggest that I go to therapy so I can talk to someone, and I am starting to look for one. I also might switch from online university classes to in person at the campus I take them through so I can get out of the town for a bit as I'm working through everything. Thanks again to everyone who responded to the original post. This has been an incredibly weird situation for me, and I genuinely don't know what I'd be doing right now if I didn't have so many people laying out everything to me straight so I could understand I'm not in the wrong. I think I might have just folded under pressure and gone back. Now on to the comment section. Not the a-hole. This is religious guilt tripping 101, you're so vital, without you nothing can happen. All you've got to do is deny who you are and conform with our views and be subservient to our demands. I hope you can find the peace and happiness you need in a community that welcomes you for you. And does it even have to be cancelled? Can't they just do the worship songs with just the congregation singing? Won't be as pretty of course, but surely that's not the point? I'm Catholic and we don't have singers, the priest starts the song and everyone sings along. We have a pipe organ but when the musician is sick, we do without. A singer/choir and guitarist is only on special occasions like weddings or Christmas. Not the a-hole. Maybe the next time your needy pastor calls, you should tell him that you've realized something that he has yet to, so you're willing to help him out. The fact is, any time a person or group decides that there is another type of person who doesn't belong in heaven alongside them, they miss out on all the wonderful things that type of person brings to the world. Tell him you're surprised and disappointed to see that he is not as interested in the state of your soul and salvation as he is in what service you can provide to his family and his congregation. I'm a minister in an affirming denomination. Your pastor literally preached a sermon that you're not welcome in his version of the church. You took him at his word. He doesn't get to have it both ways. You did the right thing. Not the a-hole. I hope you have a community of support or can find one. Subscribe and click the bell button so that you'll be notified for possible update and for more stories. Feel free to check out the original post and maybe even help OP by sharing some useful feedback or advice.